Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. This session focuses on the role of learners, teachers, and of materials in the natural approach. I hope and expect by the end of this session, you would have some idea of the positioning of learners and teachers in the natural approach, and you would also understand the nature of materials that are used in the natural approach. Well, my dear students, I would start by commenting on the role of learners in the natural approach. Learners should not try to learn a language in the usual sense. The extent to which they can lose themselves in the activities involving meaningful communication will determine the amount and kind of acquisition they will have at the end of the day, and that they will experience, and the fluency that they will finally be able to demonstrate. So instead of making a conscious effort to learn the structures of language, this approach suggests that the learners should be completely absorbed in the learning of, in performing the activities. And in that process, actually, they would ultimately learn the communicative aspect of language. The language acquirer is seen as a processor or of comprehensible input. Now, this is an important aspect because this determines the role of the learner. The learner is a processor of input. Input that is comprehensible, that is understandable. The acquirer or the learner is challenged by input that is slightly beyond his or her current level of competence. Thus, he or she struggles with that and tries to understand that. Learners' roles are seen to change according to the stage of linguistic development. At the beginner stage, most of the times the teacher keeps on giving simple input till the learner feels comfortable giving a response. In the pre-production stage, students participate in the language activity without having to respond in the target language, so they are not forced to, as such, use the target language till they are prepared. For example, students can act out physical commands, identify student colleagues from teacher's description, or point to pictures as the teacher would be asking for all these things. In the speech-emergent phase that follows this first stage, students involve themselves in role play and in games and different kinds of activities and contribute personal information and opinions, and thus participate in group work activities and problem-solving activities as a group. So there is a gradual movement from, not speaking the target language to gradually start speaking and then being comfortable in it. As far as the role of teachers is concerned, the teacher role is central in three ways. The first is that the teacher is the primary source of comprehensible input. So if the learner is the processor of information and the input is the comprehensible input, then the provider of this input, this comprehensible input, is the teacher. So the teacher needs to be competent enough in that. Secondly, the teacher creates a classroom atmosphere that is interesting, that is friendly, that is comfortable, and that creates a sense of ease for the learners, so that there is a low affective filter for learning and there are not any barriers in the learning process. Finally and thirdly, the teacher must choose and, look at a rich kind of mixture of classroom activities that would involve a variety of group sizes, variety of contents that would be used in different contexts. With this, we come towards the role of the instruction material or the nature of the instructional material that is used. Well, the primary purpose or the goal of materials in a natural approach classroom is to make classroom activities as meaningful as possible by supplying extra linguistic context that helps the learners to understand the input. Materials come from the real world. They are real world objects than the textbooks. So the primary aim of these materials is to promote comprehension and thus to enable communication. Pictures and other visual aids are essential because they provide clues or stimulus for, or they provide content for communication. There are some recommended kinds of materials which include schedules, brochures, advertisements, maps, games, books, and many other types of materials that can be taken from real life to be used in our natural approach language teaching classroom.